So I'm pregnant with my husband's child, and I get off work early and decide to go home, surprise my husband. Maybe we go for a walk around the park. But what I discovered when I walked through that white picket fence and into my beautiful household was my husband in a very perplexed situation. Let me explain to you about this girl named Trixie. Hello people, you can call me OP. I've got a lot I need to get off my chest right now, and I don't quite know where else to turn. My world's been turned upside down by my selfish husband, and all I can think about right now is getting revenge and picking up the pieces from where my life has just been torn apart like a tornado came through. This is going to be kind of long because I have quite a bit of background to go over. It would mean a lot if you guys out there could just give me some supportive comments or even constructive advice. To get things started, let me tell you about my husband Deagle, who's soon to be my ex-husband after all the horrible events that transpired today. Deagle and I have always had a bit of a rocky road, but for most of the time we've been together, the good has outweighed the bad. On his finest day, Deagle can be loving, kind, supportive, funny, motivated, sweet, and so much more. When Deagle's acting like a good person, he fulfills all my needs, both physically and emotionally. When the two of us met each other at work years ago, it was like a spark went off between us and we were so drawn to one another. Sure, there was a honeymoon period, just like there is in any new relationship, especially when you add in the follies of youthful inexperiences to the equation. Deagle truly seemed as if, he were the man of my dreams, my very own personal knight in shining armor. But little by little, I grew to see the other side of Deagle, what I like to call Deagle's dark side. While the relationship started off as if it were a bed of roses, reality finally finds a way to rear its ugly head, and as we all know, the reality itself is certainly no bed of roses. After looking back on everything, after the crazy events that took place today and sparked me to type up this story for you, I have to wonder to myself if there were never actually two sides to Deagle at all. Perhaps what I call Deagle's dark side, for so long, is the real Deagle, yet merely just a side of himself he tried to keep suppressed in order to keep me on his good side. The man is charismatic, persuasive, and can easily maneuver his way through any social situation, and he always gets what he wants. As time went on, I saw how Deagle acted when he did not get his way, just the way he wanted it. While I've talked about Deagle's good traits already, let me tell you all about the dark side. I swear it was as if Deagle had two personalities sometimes. It's sometimes as if he simply switched from the kind and loving Deagle into his total stranger who wanted nothing more than to hurt me and hurt all those around him. From the early days of our relationship, I could see that Deagle could be impatient, immature, and petulant. I remember our first serious argument as a couple. Deagle threw a glass vase across the room and it shattered. I screamed, and he was so angry he punched a hole in the wall and kept telling me to stop screaming. I listened to him. While I rationalized the event at the time and for years to come telling myself that he never actually raised his hand towards me, I realize now that the threat of violence was more than implied in the situation. And had I not listened to his demands, he likely would have used violence against me. Like so many young women in abusive relationships tend to do, I just swept this incident under the rug. But then it happened again. And again. Arguments like this became so commonplace that I began to not even think it the least bit strange or noteworthy that Deagle had absolutely no control of his anger and could keep himself from lashing out at walls or other inanimate objects. I know what you're all probably thinking right now. These are all textbook red flags in any relationship. Why didn't I run? You may ask. Well, Deagle would easily slip back into his good side as soon as the dark side subsided. He would find some way just to get back at me and his good graces, even if my gut told me I should stay away. I never truly had a chance in this relationship. I grew up with abusive parents, and I witnessed my mother being abused by my worthless father. Now I can look back and realize Deagle was more like my father than I ever realized at the time. I should have run when I had the chance, but I just kept dealing with old Deagle. There was the time Deagle got mad at me for taking too long to get ready for a date. I was only taking my time so I could pick out an outfit I thought he would like. Sadly, Deagle was drunk that night and grew violent. He began lashing out, calling me names, and before long I was reduced to tears, and I felt like I was a worthless slug. Deagle could truly tear into my self-esteem and make me feel bad about myself, just like my father used to do. I remember that night vowing that I would leave Deagle soon, but sure enough, he smoothed things over the next day by taking me out and spoiling me, and simply being sweet to me. He could be so sweet and so kind that it was enough to make me forget about the terror and despair that he just inflicted upon me not long before. But I realize now this was no great strength of Deagle. He was simply a manipulative individual, and I always knew there was an implicit threat of violence within each interaction with him. Still, I stayed in the relationship and pressed on like a fool, remaining faithful even when I should have kicked his clown to the curb like a dirty diaper. Before I got into the meat of what transpired today, that, inspired this post in the first place, I should tell you all why I stress that I've remained a faithful spouse to my husband. I let you know this fact because I want to illustrate that Deagle has been anything but faithful to me. And like a fool, I brushed it under the rug time and time again. Believing his empty lies that he would change his ways and began treating me the way I deserved to be treated, like a human being. That's right, I gave this man more than enough chances to straighten up and be a real man. There was the time I caught him engaging in inappropriate text with women that he's gone to high school and college with. He told me this was the first time he's done anything like this when I called him and confronted him about the matter. But my gut told me that he had likely done this before. Still, Deagle excused his behavior by blaming the alcohol that he was drinking. Somehow, Deagle was able to manipulate me back into his good graces. And then the same thing happened a few months later. He'd always rationalized this behavior by blaming his alcohol abuse. Deagle is an alcoholic, although I've been in denial about this fact for some time now. Or Deagle would try to say he wasn't actually being unfaithful to me, as long as his sordid proclivities were contained to cyberspace. In other words, Deagle did not consider it cheating unless he was physically bonding with another woman. He did not see anything wrong with flirting or exchanging private obscene photos with other women behind my back, and he took the narcissistic attitude that what I did not know could not harm him. Yet I would find out, confront him, and we would fight, and then he would patch things up. I could not believe I was such a damn fool, believing this man's lies time and time again. I have to admit to you all that what happened today with Deagle was a long time coming. Reading all this aloud, I know I should have made that guy hit the road years ago. But today, what happened in my own household was the straw that broke that camel's back. You see, my relationship with Deagle has been getting worse and worse, especially since we finally tied the knot and got married. I think once Deagle managed to put a ring on my finger, he thought that somehow made him, me, his own personal property to abuse and misuse as he pleased. He could not have been more wrong. But things were made even more complicated with one fact that I've neglected to share with you all. For the past few months, I've been pregnant with Deagle's child. I've had the thought to run away from Deagle a few times over the past few months, but I was totally prepared to buckle down and stick it out for the long haul. I did not want our child to grow up without both parents, so I've been determined to find some way to power through the struggles of mine and Deagle's relationship. Has Deagle put in any work at all? None whatsoever. So I went ahead to suggest couples counseling sessions, parenting counseling sessions, and more. I've been suggesting any sorts of tools I could think of that might have possibly made us better lovers, better spouses, and most importantly, better parents in order to provide a stable and healthy home for our child. Yet things between us have only continued to spiral and get worse. And I've remained largely blind and in denial of the reality of just how bad things were beginning to become. Before I go to this next event, I should tell you about Trixie, a young, frankly quite gorgeous woman, 24, who's obviously taking a liking to my husband. At first, I did not think much of it between the two. As far as I knew, Trixie was essentially an intern at my husband's workplace. Deagle, for all his faults, has always had a decent job and made a lot of money. He graduated from college and immediately got hooked up at an office job that pays great. He has seniority at his job from being there for a long time, and he's well liked at his place because he does not show his coworkers how he truly behaves behind closed doors. As far as I was aware, Trixie was just being trained by Deagle, and there was nothing nefarious going on. Of course, I soon began to have my doubts, but can you blame me for not wanting to dwell on this fact when I was more concerned with the prospect of having to successfully raise a child with Deagle? Trixie and Deagle began spending far too much time together for my liking, and I sometimes had the urge to look at Deagle's social media pages, but he kept everything tightly locked up behind passwords after I'd already caught him texting other women so many times before. I figured he just wanted his privacy after all the bumps in the road of our relationship, but I realized now that Deagle was hiding all of his private life from me for a reason. So I knew Deagle and Trixie were spending time in my house, often when I was not present, and at first I was not bothered by this. I knew, or at least I thought I knew, that Deagle was just mentoring Trixie, and since the office job often required Deagle to work from home, it made sense for Trixie to be at our house, since Deagle has important computer programs from work on his home computer, that he might need to explain to Trixie. Everything on the surface, at least, seemed like it was on the up and up, but I should have listened to my gut instincts the entire time. Hindsight is certainly 20/20, as they often say. Today, I was able to leave my job at McDonald's early. I was supposed to work a 12-hour shift, but since business was slow, my boss let me leave halfway through the day. I was so excited. I knew Deagle would be at home, and I wanted to surprise him and suggest we both take the afternoon to go to the park, go shopping, grab a nice lunch to eat somewhere. The usual things loving couples like to do with each other. It's funny, all I had on my mind was spending time with my man, because when I got home and walked into my living room, I realized I was the last thing on Deagle's mind. It seems I was not on his mind at all. Trixie was. That's right, I'll spare you all the more sordid details of the affair, but what I witnessed taking place in my living room broke my heart right in two. It felt as if Deagle himself had personally chewed up my heart and spit it out right back in front of my face. They were on the couch. Deagle and Trixie were making out like two rabbits. Who knows what would have happened if I had shown up in the house only a few minutes later. I'm sure we can all imagine what might have been taking place. I screamed and raised heck in that house like I never had before. Suddenly, it was as if I saw Deagle for who he truly was for the first time in my life. I did not see the kind and loving sweet man I thought I knew. Even when he had gotten to his knees and began begging and pleading for me to give him a chance, I still loved him, and I still love him even as I type this out for all you out there. But I knew then and there that at that moment that me and Deagle's relationship as we knew it was over forever. There was no coming back from the betrayal or trust such as this. Trixie cowardly ran out from the premises, but her, tail was tucked between her legs like a little child, and she left Deagle behind to try to make up excuses for why this was happening. Suddenly, and what could be Deagle's most selfish and rude statement yet, he told me that he was only cheating on me with Trixie because I had been, quote, unavailable. I tried to explain that my pregnancy made getting physical with one another difficult, and I explained to him before that if he cared one bit about our relationship, he would respect my wishes. He only made more excuses, and I told him to hit the road. He begged and pleaded and some more, but finally Deagle could see that I was not going to budge. As of right now, Deagle's across town in a hotel room somewhere. I don't want to hear from him, and I have every intention of divorcing him and hiring a good lawyer who can take this clown to the cleaners. I want the man's house. I want all his belongings. I want everything. Nothing can make up for all the time that he's wasted in my life, but I need some sort of restitution because I'm livid, and I don't think I can let this go. Not until I get somewhat even with this jerk I've been calling a husband. I can't even believe I was such a fool. So far, I don't have much of a revenge plan yet, but I already began to make Deagle's life a tad bit more inconvenient. I'm not sure what'll come of what I just did, and I'm not even sure if I made the right decision. But I did it anyways. I was searching social media and found out Trixie is actually the fiancé of Mr. Crowley. The name Mr. Crowley might not mean much to those outside of my hometown, but he's the rich boss who oversees Deagle's workplace. Crowley runs the whole company. I messaged him on Facebook with proof of the affair between Trixie and Deagle, but he's not responded yet. But I cannot imagine, well, he'll be happy about it all. Update number 1. Hey guys, so OP here with an update on the situation for all you. First, I'd like to thank everyone who left kind and supportive comments. Right now, I'm putting on a brave face, yet deep down I feel like I've reached my lowest low. So any kind words you folks were able to muster meant the world to me. Many of you were asking about my Facebook message I sent to Mr. Crowley detailing Deagle and Trixie's affair. Let's just say Mr. Crowley was not happy about it. He did not lash out at me or get angry for providing him with the information. He was calm and mature about it, or at least that's how he acted to me. I found out in reality Mr. Crowley was livid. Evidently, he does not deal with drama and nonsense quite as easily as I've dealt with Deagle's drama and nonsense for so long. I received a call from Deagle today. The first call I got from him since I kicked him out of the house, mind you, and Deagle was whining and pleading like a little baby yet again. Apparently, Mr. Crowley got so mad at Trixie that he broke off the engagement and kicked her out of his large mansion. The proof of the infidelity was all he needed, and he was not giving her another chance. Now Trixie's asking to move in with Deagle and live with him at the hotel where he's currently staying at. Well, Deagle was begging to be allowed to move back with me, but I know if I budge the slightest bit, he'll just go right back to messing around with Trixie. I told him to shut his mouth and leave me alone. I hung up the phone and it felt so good to stand up to this jerk. Update number 2. Hello everyone, OP here for another update, and I wish I could say things were settling down and being handled in a mature manner, but it appears Deagle is absolutely incapable of acting like a mature and professional adult. I guess it's killing him that he's not getting his way, and now he's lashing out at everyone. I received a call from Mr. Crowley today that was quite a surprise, frankly, and I did not expect to have many more interactions with Mr. Crowley after I revealed the details of the affair. So, when he called me on the phone today, I knew it had to be something serious enough to warrant a phone call. What Mr. Crowley told me shocked me and absolutely floored me. Apparently, Deagle got so frustrated with Trixie after she moved into his hotel room that he got drunk and beat the living daylights out of her. He beat her so badly that Trixie had to go to the hospital. Mr. Crowley also told me that Deagle had been blackmailing Trixie the entire time. Apparently, Trixie had been having affairs with men all across town, and Deagle threatened to reveal the affairs to Mr. Crowley if Trixie did not keep sleeping with him. And, well, he repays her by beating her up. I'm scared for what's going to happen next because Deagle is capable of anything. Update number 3. OP here with yet another update. Things just keep getting crazier and crazier. I'm going to, get right into what's been happening. Deagle was arrested after beating up Trixie but was about to bond out of jail. So he's currently a free man, free to entertain all his selfish delusions. Mr. Crowley told me today on the phone that Deagle's trying to sue him for wrongful termination. You see, Mr. Crowley's quickly firing of Deagle after finding out about the infidelity between him and Trixie. We live in what's called a right-to-work state in the South. So legally, Mr. Crowley can file Deagle for literally any reason. But Mr. Crowley received a letter today from a lawyer. I guess Deagle has not spent all this money yet, and he's just trying to get a lawyer to get some sort of semblance of revenge. I doubt it'll go anywhere, but it's stressing me out, you know. I've been spending more and more time with Mr. Crowley since all this happened, and I have to admit I'm starting to catch feelings for him. We're both going through the same trauma and the same drama, and I think this situation is starting to help us bond. We have more in common with each other, more than I thought, and I would have never known if Deagle had not started all this. And Mr. Crowley had arranged to have a date at Outback Steakhouse tomorrow, one of the best restaurants in our town. I'm excited to have a little nice date with someone to get my mind off what's been happening in my crazy life lately. Update number 4. Hey guys, I can't believe what just happened today at all. If you read my last update, well, you'll know I had a nice little date at Outback Steakhouse planned with Mr. Crowley. I thought I could get some peace from all the junk that's been happening in my life, but I should have known Deagle would find a way to interfere with it. The date started off great. Me and Mr. Crowley were hitting it off, and the way that we were effortlessly speaking with one another made me feel a way I haven't felt since the early days of getting to know Deagle. The Deagle I thought was real, but was actually just a mere facade. In fact, the date was going a little too well. I should have known something was amiss. What we didn't know when we entered the restaurant was that Deagle was sitting on the other side of the restaurant in the Bay Area. Apparently, he had been drinking all day at the bar. He was drunk as a skunk, I tell you. Me and Mr. Crowley were just chatting, enjoying our food, when suddenly he stumbled upon us. There he was, Deagle. Deagle immediately began cursing at both of us, talking about how he betrayed me. He called me names for seeing another guy, quote, behind his back, and I calmly managed to remind him that our relationship was, well, permanently over and never coming back. I guess getting a dose of reality was too much for him, and he flew off the handle. Deagle began trashing the restaurant. I'm talking knocking plates off the table, throwing glass on the floor. He took a swing at me and punched me right in the face. I was stunned momentarily, and that's when Mr. Crowley stood up and put Deagle into a chokehold until the police could show up and arrest him. It's funny, Deagle is so tough when he's hitting women, but he folded like a sheet right when a man stood up to him. That's how pathetic he is, so the cops took his sorry behind away to jail. Final update number 5. Hey people, OP here with another update. First, thank you for reading this, and of course, extra thanks to those who were kind enough to leave supportive comments and good advice. I truly could not have done this without you all being on my side, because I felt so alone when I had all this drama first transpire. While I'll certainly miss your company, I'm relieved to tell you that this will be my final update. I think this saga has been wrapped up. You see, Deagle did not stand a chance in heck when he had his day in court. Me and Mr. Crowley both decided to press charges against him. In another trial, Deagle was dealing with charges from Trixie. And to top it all off, he had Outback Steakhouse suing him for destruction of property and making threats to the customers and employees around. Everything was literally caught on camera, and Deagle was guilty as sin. The judge locked him up and threw away the key. I can't help but be a tad bit sad for him, even though I know he deserved everything that he got. Deagle had the potential to be so much more than what he became, and I suppose prison will give him the time that he needs to just go and reflect on what he's done and how he's managed to ruin his life. I sincerely hope he gets help for his anger issues. I've forgiven him for what he's done, because if you don't forgive people, you'll always carry some sort of emotional baggage until it eats away at your soul. For my sanity, I have to forgive Deagle. Yet that doesn't mean I have any intention of giving that jerk another chance at getting into my life. You see, I just recently got engaged. That's right, I'm going to marry Mr. Crowley, and I've been living at his mansion for some time now. My beautiful daughter was born a few weeks ago, and Mr. Crowley's been acting like the kind of loving father I never had, and what Deagle could never be. He's a great lover, he's a great person, and in a funny way, I'm glad all this happened, because me and Mr. Crowley never would have met otherwise. Thank you for reading. Alright guys, well, no wonder Deagle rhymes with Beagle, because he's a dog. Guys, I want to know your thoughts about today's story. Say, for instance, you had to deal with Deagle. Ugh, I mean, the nerve of him, the audacity, the abuse that OP had to go through, it was mounting and ridiculous. Luckily, at the end of the story, Mr. Crowley and OP seem to have been engaged romantically. And I think that's a good thing for OP, because finally she's with someone who seems to actually love her and care about her and doesn't take advantage of her like we were seeing Deagle do. Anyways, I want to know your thoughts, guys. My name's Mr. Reddito, and I narrate stories like this every day, so if you want to be a part of these daily story narrations, just drop a subscribe underneath this video. It's free, it takes a second to do it, and it really helps the channel out a lot. I hope you guys have a great day. I'll see you tomorrow, and just remember, it's cool to be kind. Peace.